Welcome to Spinning Back Clique, where each week here at MMA Junkie, we take a spin through the biggest stories in MMA. And on today's episode, well, now that UFC 321, the main event has come and gone, let's talk about the eye pokes by Ciryl Gane. The UFC strawweight division has a new champion. I'll give you a hint, the Brazilian one. And finally, here's something you rarely say. Nurmagomedov bounces back from a loss to win again. Hello, everyone. Chabolin here on the con, and look at the distinguished panel we have for you today. Down in the 305, El Chingon Segura. He's ready to bring it. Up in the Northeast, Beantown, it's Nolan Pumpkin. And here in Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world, Glows joins us. Now listen, guys, before we get started, please hit that like button. If not for the fact that it helps the algorithm, maybe because we were silly enough to dress up today. All right. UFC 321. It ended in disappointment. I'm, of course, talking about the main event. That contest was heating up nicely before the no contest. In fact, the fight was kind of more competitive than the odds dictated, guys. If you'll recall, Aspinall was a huge favorite. He was even bloodied up a bit prior to the eye pokes, I should say, because it was two fingers at one time on that last, or on the poke that ended the fight into a no contest. Let's get a reaction from the panelists. Danny, lead things off. I'm sorry, El Chingon, con respeto.
Yes. I was surprised. Well, first of all, bummer. I think the whole card was kind of building up to this. We had gone through so much shit, to be honest, to get to an undisputed championship fight, a legit one where the champion fights the number one contender, right? We went through the whole thing with Ngannou, then the whole thing with John Jones and Stipe, then Jones wouldn't fight Aspinall, and then we finally arrive at Aspinall versus Gane, and that fight ends in a no contest. So just terrible news for the heavyweight division. But I'll say this, the only positive thing is that the rematch, I think it's far more exciting, because I was one of the people that was writing off Gane, and I'm like, look, this guy's going to get finished within 10 minutes. And we saw almost 5 minutes, about 4 minutes of legit fighting. And in those 4 minutes, Gane was looking quite good. So, yeah, terrible ending to the card. But thankfully, these guys are heavyweights. It doesn't seem that Aspinall is damaged too bad as far as his eye's concerned. So hopefully we get this fight sooner rather than later.
Nolan, let's get a reaction from you.
Yeah, I mean, to echo a lot of what Danny said, but it's just such a bummer. You know, that card was very weird, I think, from start to finish too. We not only went through a lot with this division, but we went through a lot on Saturday morning as well, with some bad fights, some weirdness. And so yeah, it was just unfortunate. You know, you finally have the fight that you've wanted to, restart the division. It ends in an eye poke. And like Danny said, I mean, the 4 minutes, they were intriguing. I'm not sure how much I want to read into it, but obviously when these guys do get booked again, this 4 minute period is going to be combed over with a fine tooth comb. People are going to be micro-analyzing every exchange and saying Gane was getting the better of him, which I think he was. I think it surprised me how aggressive both guys came out. I think the pace was a lot higher than we expected. I thought maybe, with Gane being involved, there'd be a feeling out process. There'd be a little bit of, getting in the proper range or whatever. But no, he took it right to Tom from the beginning. Tom did have some answers for him, but it's just a bummer. And I guess the good thing is, right, now the UFC schedule, I'm sure they've had things mapped out probably through, January, February, where they have the title fights penciled in. I think we're going to end up with a card that essentially has an extra title fight now, whether that's the Paramount debut or something else. Maybe if they're going back to Vegas in March, I think we're going to get some stacked cards. It's a nice stretch coming up of pay-per-views, and I think it will continue into 2026 with a much more anticipated main event in the rematch than the first time around.
All right, and finally to Goes, who did the watch along with me, so I'm familiar with some of what he felt. Time has gone by. He's rewatched the fight. Thoughts, Goes?
I mean, obviously it was unfortunate, but we did get some of the fight to play out, and the data was interesting, right, on both sides. I do feel like Tom Aspinall was more focused on fighting John Jones and trying to beat what he did than he was with Ciryl Gane. Ciryl Gane did a lot of good things in that fight, and I just felt like Tom, even up until the eye poke, which, by the way, both sides were sticking their fingers out. It's something that George actually called on the watch along. He was saying before he jinxed the entire thing, he was saying somebody eventually is going to get poked because they're both doing it. So both guys were doing it. It's just unfortunate that it happened the way it did, especially in a division that's just been absolutely snake bitten. Guys, this is Tom Aspinall, a guy that we all feel like could possibly be one of the greats, a few years from now. And really, how much cage time have we even seen of this guy, right? This fight went almost 5 minutes, but before that, it's 1 minute, 1 minute, 30 seconds. Like, we really haven't seen much of him. Going into this fight, I wasn't too pumped up. I'll be honest. Gane just was not the name I wanted to hear. But after seeing this fight and seeing how it played out, it made me excited. And you know what, man? That eye poke might have been the best thing that could have happened to Tom Aspinall, because I'm not saying I still had him winning up until that moment, but I think Gane had some answers and some things that Tom wasn't expecting. A reset will be very interesting, and I think I'll be more fired up for the rematch.
Okay. So I agree with some things. I disagree with others. Actually, a lot of takes I had on Saturday, guys, after rewatching it, I'm completely flipped. For one, that night I felt like Ciryl Gane had been winning the fight, and I was not entertaining the thought that Aspinall was looking for a way out. Many of you were saying that. Not true at all. I see Danny nodding his head. Nope. Tom Aspinall just looked like a guy that was, 14 months off, shaking off rust, but having fun. But he was throwing just as much heat at Gane as he. The problem is we set the bar so high on what Aspinall needed to do for it to be some sort of a success, and it wasn't measuring up to that. Credit to Gane. But Aspinall wasn't looking for a way out. Hell, I thought he might have even been winning that round. There was like 27 seconds left when it ended. A lot can happen between then. So the 10-9 either way was pretty close. I get it. But I do not feel like Aspinall was looking for a way out. He's never shown me in covering his career for all, these years that he's that type of guy, shady or a puss or a front runner, nothing like that. Other than he handles his business, and on this occasion, it wasn't happening. So I don't think he was looking for a way out at all. I just have to take him at his word that he really couldn't see. I've played sports, and I know that same thing. The cup shot, it's not always necessarily direct power blow that could be the most painful. We call them grazers. The grazers can sometimes knock you on your ass just as much. I imagine the eye, same type of thing, man. In fact, look at the middle finger goes in further into his left eye. Then the index finger goes into his right eye, yet the right eye is the one that blinded him. And what can you do, man? I'm excited for the run back because, again, upon watching it, both guys were light on their feet. Both guys were comfortable, calm, relaxed, prepared, ready to go. So I am into the rematch. It was disappointing that night. I was disappointed, but what can you do, man? I will say this last thing on the way out. I know the UFC tried new gloves, and supposedly, I don't know if it was a coincidence, the KO ratio went down. They abandoned them quickly. But Bellator, for many years, had that curvature one done by Everlast, and they didn't have the amount of eye pokes the UFC had. And I don't know why the UFC has not looked into that glove. Bellator is way out of business. In fact, it's an Everlast company anyway, so any connection to that, I don't know. But so I'm not saying it'll ever be fixed because the fingers will be out there. And then like Go said, yeah, fingers were out on Tom's side as well. There was one time where he was kind of like reaching with both hands at the same time prior to the eye poke, and it wasn't there. And he doesn't have that history of it. So that's why we don't really look as Tom as the possible one of the two that could lower himself to cheating. But Gane wasn't cheating. He didn't even do it that much, to be honest. So and I'm not going to pretend here that I'm not being a Monday morning quarterback because I did rewatch it and I caught a lot of those things that you just don't catch it live. Danny, you disagreed with something I said early on.
No. I was nodding in agreement.
Got it.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that some people are calling Tom Aspinall a puss, and yet this is the guy that for years had been campaigning and pleading and begging to fight the greatest fighter of all time, John Jones. And he's almost 20 professional fights into his MMA career. Not only that, but doing them inside of the UFC. Like, dude, this guy's one of the toughest people alive. Get out of here with that shit. It's just he got eye poked and it was pretty bad, and it's not advisable to fight while your vision is impaired against a world-class fighter like Ciryl Gane, and especially when there's so much on the line. Even some fighters surprised me, like Chael Sonnen and Anthony Smith saying that Tom didn't want to continue fighting. Dude, what the hell? Like, what is he supposed to do? If he can't see, he can't see.
Yeah, I agree, but I'm pretty fired up about them running it back, and hopefully they do it soon. And if you follow Tom's official YouTube channel, they follow him. They follow him, you know, from the medical tent to the ambulance to the emergency room, and then even I think he goes through a series of doctors.
Mm-hmm.
He does testing on his eyes, and they give him the option: you can stay till Monday, and we can do more testing, or you can do the additional testing home. And they said they were hopping on a plane and going home. So today's Monday. They're 8 hours ahead. He might have already done it. And if there's any news that comes out of it, we'll be on top of it here on MMA Junkie. But let's hope that by now everything's started to clear up or is back to 100%.
Well, but George, like, okay, let me offer a little bit of pushback. I agree with you guys. Could he have gone on? Probably, but would it have impaired his ability to fight? 100%. Well, who would want to do that? Like, how many times do people do favors for the UFC? You're a company guy, but when it's your turn, they kind of look the other way. There's a lot riding on this fight. This isn't just a regular little match. This is the heavyweight championship of the world. Do you really want to go into that? I mean, we always talk about fighters going in not 100%, but not being able to see with one of the best strikers in the UFC in front of you, that's a scary ordeal. If you even look back earlier in the night, that head kick knockout, like, there were a lot of reasons to not continue. But where I will offer a little bit of pushback is I can't hate people who maybe say he was looking for a way out, because let's be honest, he didn't drop that fight that way. I think he looked very surprised with the way things were going. And the one mistake I'll say he probably made was, don't say you can't see. That's one. And two, give it the whole 5 minutes. Just give it the whole 5 minutes. Even if you know you can't see nothing and you're not going to fight, give it the whole 5 minutes, because you kind of give a bad image when you do that. I think that hurt him a little bit.
Okay. All right, guys. I guess let's follow up on does anyone have a problem with the rebooking? No, right? I mean, anybody or I think we're pretty clear. Aspinall should fight Gane should fight Aspinall. We're probably looking at 2026. There was some talk about December, but again, a lot of it has to do with Aspinall's eye. That to me sounds soon, but I guess the buildup is this fight. Do you guys want to see it in December if he's ready to go, or do you want to turn the page and start off CBS Paramount Plus with a bang?
Yeah, I think January is probably more realistic, but for me, it actually, in a weird way, kind of gives us a little more time for things to figure themselves out at heavyweight, right? Because we look at, like, you know, the Volkov versus Almeida fight that was kind of the title eliminator, maybe kind of sort of on this card. Not the best fight. The decision was debated a bit, so I guess that got people talking. But outside of that, like, was anybody really ecstatic to see the winner of that, to see Volkov fight, Aspinall or Gane right now? I like Volkov a lot. I just think that performance, kind of being taken down over and over again and winning for minimal damage off the bottom, kind of a non-ideal way to gain some hype to enter a title fight, right? So I think this buys us a little bit more time for things to figure themselves out, and in a weird way kind of does us a favor where right now we have something to look forward to at the top of the heavyweight division.
Mm-hmm. All right. Danny, do you feel like that criticism from fans and other fighters and media was fair towards Aspinall?
No, not at all. I mean, they're not the ones that got eye poked. Aspinall is the only person there that can say if he can or continue or not, and he's telling you he cannot. So you just have to take his word for it. And also, this is not a guy that historically has gone through things like this and has sort of seen a way out. Like, this is the first time that this sort of happens to him. So I don't know why fans were so quickly at jumping the gun and being like, oh yeah, he's just looking for a way out. I don't think that was the case at all. So yeah, I think it's very unfair. And again, I was very surprised to see Chael Sonnen and Anthony Smith say those comments. And look, if Anthony Smith would have decided not to continue when he fought John Jones due to that illegal shot, he probably would have been the champion. He could say he won a UFC title and probably a lot more money. So, I mean, everyone makes their own decisions, right? But you can't fault Tom Aspinall for not continuing if he truly was impaired, with his vision. I will say this though, for the people that kind of are criticizing him, not that I agree, but I do think maybe if Aspinall was putting a whooping on Gane, maybe he would have been a little bit more inclined to take the risk of continuing to fight and keep the momentum, even if he was a little bit impaired. But look, the fight wasn't going his way. He can't see. It's not advisable at all to continue.
Or if he had lost the first 2 rounds and then in the third early on, it's not going his way, and then that happens, then I could start to entertain people saying he's looking for a way out. This thing was so early, and like I say, he could have possibly even won round 1. I also disagree with Tom Aspinall on something where he thinks it should have been a DQ. I don't think it should have been. I think it definitely was inadvertent. Like I say, I watched it back. Both guys stuck out their fingers just as much. In fact, Tom maybe even more than Ciryl Gane. It's just that Ciryl Gane got caught up in that. And a lot of fighters explain your hands go in that motion when you're throwing a kick. You're not going to stop the guys from, I guess, having their fingers out. You can have them point up. They're more used to grabbing, especially because they had opposite stands. So that outside hand, they're trying to measure. They're trying to parry. You know what I'm saying? So that's happening as well. But I disagree with Tom. I didn't hear – Tom said on the way out, he told DC he was warned twice. No, he wasn't. I didn't hear any warnings. As soon as it happened, Jason Herzog told him that hey, watch the fingers, but he had already poked him, so he did say it twice. So again, Tom Aspinall saying some things they disagree with, the fans, everything. Like I say, I still think this is not just a problem in this fight; it's a problem in MMA, and I think the curvature of the gloves. I remember it happening a lot less in Bellator. All right. Who wins the rematch upon what you've seen? I know that, look, the odds haven't come out or anything, but just who's your early lean when they run it back goes?
Tom Aspinall. I think he smartens up for the rematch. I think he has more weapons and more ways to adjust than Ciryl Gane. So I think he wins it.
No one's nodding in agreement?
Yeah, I kind of lean towards him. I think the downside for Gane, one of the many downsides of what happened on Saturday is I think Tom kind of knows what he's going to do now, right? Like he showed his hand a little bit. So let's see if Tom can make adjustments. I think it's close, though. It's maybe a closer fight than we thought. So I'm going to lean Aspinall, but not confidently.
Danny?
Yeah, the element of surprise is gone for Gane. You see what I did there with rhyming? Yeah, I'm gonna go and lean with Aspinall again, but I will say this though, I take fault for this. I discarded 100% the idea of Gane being able to defeat Tom Aspinall. And again, we only saw 4 minutes, but I will say that Gane's got a chance. He fought well, and if Aspinall's not able to find an answer for the jab and the movement, man, he's gonna have a long night. So this fight, in my mind, leading up to this rematch, just became a lot closer than it was entering UFC 321. And I'll say one more thing, guys. I don't know if you guys noticed on the video blogs that Tom Aspinall's dropping, his dad revealed pre-fight that Tom had 3 fights left on his contract. So this is one of them, the eye poke. The rematch will be the second. So if he does defend the belt against Ciryl Gane, he'll be going into his next fight on his last fight, should he obviously not sign an extension. But just thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
He wants to go to boxing, right? I think he's saying there's way better money there.
He sees the money.
So between the dad saying that and Tom revealing he wouldn't fight a teammate, Dana White's not feeling too happy. And then the result of the fight, where he thinks only Tom knows if he could have went, but he says it in this little snarky tone and a sly smile. I don't know if that'll be the best relationship going forward. I don't know that it has been as it is, because Dana was glazing John Jones for the past 2 years, up until when John Jones goes, you know what? I don't want your 30 mil. I'm out. Kind of made a whole mockery of the division. I mean, that division's just been such a joke for so many years. And that's the disappointing thing, is we had a young heavyweight, fast hands, KO machine, ready to go, and then we're stuck with this bullshit. Oh man, so frustrating. All right, let's cleanse the palate. Let's talk about the co-main event. A lot of heart shown by Virna Shandaroba and Mackenzie Dern. It ends with Mackenzie Dern winning a decision 48-47 two-time and a 49-46. Let's get a reaction. Back to Danny.
Man, I've been one of the, well, I think everyone was on board on the Mackenzie train when she first crossed over from the jiu-jitsu world into MMA. But as she progressed throughout her career, the weight issues, the defeats, at some parts, the lack of evolution, I saw a lot of people sort of jump out of that train and really think Mackenzie was just going to be sort of top 10 and that's it. I'll take some pride in saying that I was one of the people that was riding the train all along saying, hey, Mackenzie Dern will be UFC champion. And there she is, as you can see on the footage, fulfilling that promise that people set on her from the very first day she began training MMA. So happy to see. I think this is great for women's MMA. Women's MMA honestly has sucked in the last few years. It's been terrible, really. When we used to have all these big names and super fights. And I think Mackenzie Dern is a fighter that's relatively active, doesn't really get injured. Her fights are always exciting, but they're sloppy but technical. Like, they're sloppy in a good way. And there's also high level fighting there, obviously, with her grappling and her jiu-jitsu. So I think this is great for the division. This is great for women's MMA. And I'm happy to see her as champion.
All right, before we get to Goes and Nolan's reaction, real quick, if you can hit the like button, we'd greatly appreciate it. This is a live show every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And how about the fact that you can't get B-roll like that anywhere else? That's a shout out to our producer, Cold Coffee. Go ahead, Nolan. Your thoughts on the strawweight title? We have a new champ, Mackenzie Dern.
Yeah, I mean, good for her. It's been fun seeing her career play out, right? She was so spotlighted from an early age, and seeing her be a bit of a project, right? Sometimes fighters, the quickest line to the top is a straight line, and for others, the most efficient line has some ups and downs. And we saw her lose a handful of times. We questioned I remember talking on the show about how much better she could get, some of her inconsistencies. So good for her. I mean, she took a long road there. She put on a good performance on Saturday. She's somebody I think obviously the UFC can promote a bit. And I guess we'll see where she goes from here. I look at it and she's not like a champion where, maybe it's because I've seen her lose before, I think, I don't know who's going to beat her. But I also, looking at the names that are on the list, I don't know who's going to beat her. Like, there's nobody that jumps out and I say, oh, this person's flying up the ladder, she's going to have a problem. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a title reign she has. But yeah, it's a little bit of new, kind of a new era at 115 with Weili out of the picture. So good for her. It was fun watching it play out, and let's see where it goes from here.
All right, let's go to Glows in Las Vegas.
I thought it was a crazy fight, man. I thought both girls fought really well, but you have to remember there are quite a few fights on this card where you feel like the two people that are in the cage are also fighting someone else. And so to a certain extent, you feel like they're also trying to prove that they would have had something, right, for Zhang Weili. And I don't know that they did that in this fight. Mackenzie Dern, I thought, gutted it out. I'd like to see her get through a fight without taking as much damage. But, you can't really say much. There's a belt around her waist. I think she deserves it. I think it's a good thing for the UFC. But if you're asking me the same way in the featherweight division, Volk can pump his chest, but I think a lot of us go, oh, what about Zaporia? I think a lot of us will probably still be doing that about Zhang Weili for a while, but you still have to give her props. Like, just winning a belt in at the highest level like that is so impressive. And it couldn't have happened to a better person. Like, she's a great person.
Yeah, what a long road, but she made it. Another Perillo fighter, same thing. Michael Bisping back in the day wasn't even lined up to fight Luke Rockhold at UFC 199. He was filming a movie in Toronto, and who was it? I guess Weidman that fell out. I can't remember. And yeah. Next thing you know, this guy steps up, puts it on his chin. He's a world champ. Jason Perillo, now 3 champs he's worked with for a while. Bisping, Dern, Penn. I know Rockhold trained down there, but I don't think he got his title under Perillo. I think it was more AKA based at that time. I'm seeing you can leave a question or a comment via Facebook or YouTube here, and we try and address as many as we can. Now, this is a packed show with us unpacking UFC 321, but here's one from All Day. No contest does not count as a fight. 3 fights still remaining. I don't think so. That's clearly both fighters got paid for their work. Mm-hmm. That was a fight. The UFC had revenue from the fight. It's just an unfortunate ending, but that's incorrect. All Day. So in case anyone's reading that and that thought that might have some legs, no, that's not the case. back to what we were talking about here. What's next for Dern? Are you guys feeling the Suarez call out all the way around, or does someone want to raise their hand? Do you have another idea? Suarez it
That
is.
seems solid to me. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, I like the Suarez fight, and it makes sense if you look at the division. Suarez is the only one in the top 5 that's coming off a win. So, I mean, anybody else, you're going to give them a title shot off a loss? Like, that doesn't make sense. Suarez is the rightful next challenger for the belt.
Yeah.
I think Mackenzie's biggest opponent, and this has been most of her career, is consistency. She's just got to be consistent. You know, that's going to be tough to do. But that Suarez matchup, I think, kind of leans in her favor a little bit.
Think back to that Suarez Lemos fight a few months ago, where remember Lemos was turning it around. If that's a 5-round fight, who knows how that one ends up, but that's how important of a fight it was. Because like Danny pointed out, she's coming off a win. She's only got 1 loss, and now the champ called her out. So that one might just be basically locked up and ready to go sometime in 2026. What's Dern's potential to become a star, Nolan?
It's tough to say. I mean, the thing is, right, like we're familiar with her. She's been around. And I think that sometimes can be a bit of a disadvantage for a champion versus somebody that comes in and they just dominate their way up the ladder. She definitely does not have that sort of mystique or any sort of aura of invincibility, because we've already seen her fail at times. So I'm not sure, you know. I think given if you look at the rest of the division, she's probably the one that has the most star potential. I'd have to look at the rankings a little bit more here, but yeah, I mean, to me, clearly. So I don't know. I don't know if she'll be like Zhang Weili was in terms of a star, because Zhang Weili had a country behind her. I'm not really sure. I think maybe moderate, depending on how long she sticks around as champion.
I think a big win in Brazil would definitely start the catapult. I don't know, but I agree. If you look at her record, she never really has strung together these long streaks. She bounces back from streaks. She's got the $1 million smile. Speaks multiple languages. It's there for the taking. But man, I would still say, look at the way Verna took her down. You know, Suarez is going to be able to take her down. I think she needs to start getting some of her own takedowns and working the top position. Amazing Brazilian jiu-jitsu she has. It can take her far, but we'll see. For now, let's give her flowers. She won. Her little daughter got to witness it. Great stuff. How about Umar Nurmagomedov defeats Mario Batista? 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. Anybody that didn't watch it would probably think, I'm going to skip it. Sounds like it was domination. It was quite the opposite.
Yeah, no, if you look at the scorecards, this did not tell the right tale of this fight. Both guys look tremendous. Nurmagomedov, he's another guy on this card, right? That he's kind of battling the fact that we all need reasons to see him fight Merab again, right? Why would it be any different? I thought he put on a great performance. I was waiting for his cardio to give out at some point. It never did. And Batista, it's kind of hard to call him a loser in that fight, because you feel like if there were anybody else standing in front of him that night, he probably would have won. He was a little Tasmanian devil. He was not giving up. Every opportunity he had something. Unfortunately, yeah, it was 30-27, but it didn't tell the right story there. And I think Nurmagomedov, I think he did do enough. I think he really made us, if you weren't already, because I think you should have been excited about a possible rematch with Merab, I think this kind of took another step and only solidified that. But I thought it was a great performance for both those guys.
Danny, quick thoughts on Nurmi and Bautista, and what's next for Nurmi? Did he earn a title shot in your opinion?
Yes, I think. I mean, who else would you give the fight to? I would like for that rematch to be a little bit further apart, just to give it some air, and also have Nurmagomedov be able to build up his skills and be able to convince the public further into that fight being more competitive this second time around. We'll also have to see how Merab looks against Peter Yan. Maybe he shows some weaknesses there, or some weaknesses in the armor that maybe, make that Nurmagomedov rematch more enticing. But I thought the fight was good. I still believe, and I know this is somewhat of a hot take. I didn't realize it was a hot take until I started seeing the reactions from people, but I still believe after watching that fight that Umar Nurmagomedov is the most technical fighter in that division, even over the champion. Merab has way superior cardio, and has more endurance and is just higher durability. But yeah, that's the fight to make. And I was also happy for Mario Bautista. He looked damn good, man. He really made Umar work for every single position, every single takedown. And I saw a lot of hate for Mario. Obviously, the fight against Aldo was not the greatest, and some people thought he lost. Then he fought Patchy Mix, and Patchy Mix hasn't really had a great start to his UFC career. So a lot of people just kind of thought that Mario Bautista sucked. But even in defeat, I think he proved he's a world-class fighter, at least a close to a top 5, if not a top 5. So shouts out to both guys for that performance.
Danny, sorry, Nolan, any quick thoughts on that fight?
No, just to tail off of what Danny just said, I would like to see it normalized that maybe people even in defeat move up the rankings a little bit, because I think Mario proved a lot. Right now he's sitting at 8 and he's behind, Cheeto and Ayman Zahabi. I think you could have a conversation that he should go above those guys. So just a cultural shift in kind of how we view rankings I'd like, and this is a perfect example of why.
Yeah, let's get to Volkov versus Almeida. That had some controversy. Because we're running a little behind, let me speed through things. According to MMA decisions, all of the judges had Volkov winning round 1, 10-9. Michael Bell, Tony Weeks, Clemens Werner. All 3 judges are experienced. I would say Bell's more part of that group that does more fights because of his presence at the Apex. But regardless, Weeks and Werner have done a lot of it, a lot of scores. I would say they're maybe slightly less experienced in MMA, but regardless. Then in the next round, they all agree 10-9 the other way. Okay, so now it's just a matter of round 3. How did you score it? Because Weeks and Werner had it for Volkov, and Bell had it for Almeida. Here's the irony there. I think a lot of people that feel Almeida won is because he was in top, a lot. He got a lot of takedowns, and so therefore he had more control of the fight, just more dominant positions, blah, blah, blah. But the Bell is, I guess, the one that you would call more experienced, more familiar with the scoring criteria that's changed in the last few years, where damage is high. And not that Volkov damaged him. It's just he's the one that was throwing fists, a couple elbows or whatever, some knees early on in the round. I thought the call was right. What did you think? Back to Nolan.
Yeah, going into the decision, I thought it was going to be 29-28 either way. I was fine with it. That's the way that I leaned. I felt like Volkov, again, damage is number 1, right? And you could make the argument that perhaps things have swung too far in that direction. Like, a guy totally blanketing somebody for a round, and then the guy on the bottom lands a couple shots, and all of a sudden, he did more damage, he won. I could see the argument where people say, like, that's not really who should win the fight, but those are the rules right now. So damage is number 1, like you said, George. And I kind of like to see that fight was scored that way. But the problem is, I think we don't consistently see that. So again, we have a lot of people going in different directions. It was very close. I could see arguments for both. I'm not yelling, and screaming about this decision, because ultimately I think if you made me pick who won that fight, it would be Volkov.
Danny, how about you? I know you had some thoughts yesterday. We kind of talked about it. Have you rewatched it? Have you changed your mind? Who won the fight? And tell us why.
I thought Almeida won, and I think it's quite crazy to score the fight for Volkov.
No.
Yes, it is. Look, Volkov clearly won the first round. Almeida clearly won the second round, and in the third round, yeah, Volkov landed some shots, but where's the damage? Like, okay, if he would have rocked him with an up kick or something, but that wasn't the case at all. Jalton was all over him, dominated him, and
where was his damage?
Well, Volkov ended up being cut on his
ear.
Was it on an ear or was his eye?
It was in his ear, yeah.
I think Jalton was his ear, and then he was on his eye. Either way, I thought Jalton won. But look, in the end, I am glad that Volkov won, because honestly, like, I was really frustrated watching Jalton fight, and I like that Volkov was the one trying. But how did I score the fight? I scored it for Jalton Almeida. I mean, he dominated him. He just didn't do much damage, but he did dominate him. Now, again, if Volkov would have landed like a knee, like Bautista did against Nurmagomedov, okay, and then gets taken down and dominated, where it was an impactful shot, then you go, okay, fine. You win the round, even though you got dominated on the grappling. But that wasn't the case. So I saw it 29-28 for Jalton. But, in the end, I I think the guy that we all wanted to win just because of the nature of the fight won. So on that end, that's good. But I thought Jalton won.
Goes in the chat. They're saying, here we go again. Danny be tripping. Do you agree with Danny?
Don't get selective. Read that new comment, brother.
Danny is correct here from Scott Christian.
And that is not my burner.
Okay. Go ahead, Goes.
Look, when I was watching it, I had Volkov winning it. But I did say, given the way judges judge, I feel like they're going to give it to Almeida. Sometimes when you're watching fights, really, if you guys have any noob fans or friends, sometimes they just make funny points that actually make sense. And I had a buddy tell me, you know what? If you gave me the option of either being the guy on the bottom that's getting laid on, but I'm hitting the other guy, or being the guy on top and laying on him, but I'm getting hit, I'd rather be the guy at the bottom. And I think that's kind of what happened. I think he was just a little bit more active. And the frustrating part of it was if Almeida just did a little bit more, not even a lot,
correct,
we'd have no issue whatsoever. But I think when he goes back and watches it, he's going to be really frustrated with himself.
There's a point where he's on top and his elbow's right on Volkov's head. And Daniel Cormier points out, if Almeida can now do something, he goes, there's that elbow, that left elbow, I think he said, just grind it at first, and let Volkov have to like move around and then cock back, 4 inches, 6 inches? I mean, they're heavyweights. It's still something. Like, do something. He didn't do it. Look, the problem with what Danny's saying, in my opinion, is he's not wrong. If they scored it the other way, I'd be talking about congrats, Almeida, whatever. My problem is yesterday when him and I were talking about it, he was using the R word, and today he's still saying, like, how could anyone score it for Volkov?
Okay, I'll use it. It was a robbery.
It was, oh my God.
It was a robbery. Hey, let me give you these stats, GG. Volkov landed 7 significant strikes. 7 in round 3. Jalton Almeida, 5. Control time. Jalton Almeida controlled Volkov for 3 minutes and 42 seconds of that fight. So you're telling me 2 strikes. Two strikes.
Well, it's not just 2. Do the whole strike count, though.
Which is like 80% of the fight being controlled.
I think the whole strike count was at least 40-10 or something like that at some point. You might be talking about significant strikes, but
it wasn't like Mackenzie. Dude, Mackenzie Dern was getting some space in those elbows, was busting up Jandirova. Literally, her face was all messed up from the shots. Bro, Volkov was just landing little pitter-patter shots, bro. Come on.
The criteria says if you get a takedown and you don't,
that ain't damage.
It's like nothing happened, and that's what was happening. Nothing was happening. He was landing the takedowns. The win was there for him. He could have honestly.
And by the way, I agree. I share the exact same frustration for Almeida. Like, what are you doing, bro? The hardest part is done. Getting the takedown and getting a dominant position. All you gotta do is strike a little bit. That's it. So I agree with you. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with Jalton Almeida, but he needs to fix that, because even if he does go on a crazy win streak, he's never going to get a title shot off performances like that. He's just not.
Agree with it all, but you got to take back that R word.
I'm not taking it back.
If you think that's a robbery, we can't trust you.
I'm not taking it back, bro.
To be fair, the way he's dressed and calling for a robbery kind of holds a little bit more weight. He does look like he's actually going to perform a robbery.
Nolan, did you think that was a robbery?
No, I didn't think it was a robbery. I think you could disagree with the decision. I don't know how you would call it a robbery. On what basis was it so far out of damage?
What damage?
Well, I mean, more damage than Almeida
versus 5. Little pitter patter at the bottom. Come on.
I don't disagree with you that I think that the rules should be revisited to allow for, like George just said, if you get a takedown and you don't do anything with it, it doesn't count as anything. I personally don't think that that's necessary. I think that swung too far towards the damage side. I think they need to count for something, right? Because there's instances like this where it doesn't make sense, but I also think that's kind of what the rules said. So to me, I don't think it's a robbery. If they had given it to Almeida, I wouldn't have been flipping out either. I thought it was within the acceptable score range that when I go into a decision, I say, okay, that was close. That round was close. Judges could have had it either way. What are the different scores that I think would be acceptable? I think that was an acceptable scorecard.
It was like a virgin couple got married, and it's both of them their first night making love, and the one on the bottom says, don't hurt me. Please take it slowly with me. And the one on top says, that's exactly what I'm going to do, because there was nothing happening. He just laid on him. That was it.
Yeah, I agree.
That's not scoring. Like the judge is going, the judge in his mind is probably going, okay, and the takedown was there, and there was nothing.
Watching DDP versus Hamza Chimaev at any point in time in the 5 rounds, did you think about scoring the fight for DDP?
Well, remember, a lot of that was against the fence, and a lot of that was the stupid knees to the buttocks and the hamstrings and all that. I mean, stuff was happening there, but the optics was just really, really bad on the ground, because you land the takedown. Now what are you going to do? Improve your position, go for some sort of a submission, or ground and pound. You have 3 options to keep the fight somewhat interesting and not let the ref stand you up. And again, Danny, I have no problem if you said Almeida, because upon that day when I was watching it live, I thought, yeah, I could see the same thing. But when I rewatched it again, I was like, man, for one, I feel strong that it wasn't Almeida, and 2, it definitely wasn't a robbery. And is this the real Matt Wells? Is he tripping too? Because he's on Danny's side.
Sounds like you're tripping, GG.
I'm not tripping. There's no.
I have to say, if we're talking about optics, you given that little mono act about the couple making love while dressed like you are. It hit a little bit different than if it wasn't Halloween, you know?
Yeah.
It's my first time.
I mean, it can go. I get it. It can go either way, but I can't say robbery. I can't be with you on that one, Danny. But I'm not calling you crazy. I just can't do robbery.
Almeida got screwed, man.
So since the top 2 are going to run it back, what do we do with Volkov, the winner? Just you're the alternate. You fight Almeida again, and you know what would you guys suggest?
Almeida again, rematch.
No,
it's just practice. I'm just kidding. Dude, I don't know. We are going to see an interesting heavyweight bout this weekend, which we'll get into in a few minutes, with Waldo Cortez Acosta and Ante Delija, former PFL champion. Maybe the winner against Volkov there.
Yeah, luckily it's this week. There'll be some options. All right, real quick, another highlight from UFC 321, then we'll put it to bed. Nolan?
I thought the refereeing was great. The officiating coming out of Vancouver, where things were pretty terrible. I think that there was a number of different instances on this card where you saw the difference between what good officiating and bad officiating is. You had Rich Mitchell taking a point decisively in a very important, potentially fight-changing moment in the Mitch Raposo Azat Maxim fight. Then the next fight, when Hamdi Abdelhawab hit Chris Barnett in the back of the head, Mark Goddard was totally in control of the situation. There was no question about what was happening, you know, how much time somebody was going to be allowed. He was saying, are you good to fight or are you not? Like, Chris Barnett had to give him an answer, and then the fight resumed. And then ultimately in the main event as well, you know, there wasn't any sort of argument that Jason Herzog was having actively with Tom Aspinall to try to get him to fight, which I felt like was kind of what happened in Vancouver, you know, with the fouls there. So good job by the officiating squad. I think there's a big difference when it comes to decisive action where the rules are actually followed. And I think it makes the sport a lot better when we see stuff like that.
By the way, who pissed off Barnett that he had to moon them in the middle of the fight? I'm wondering that. Goes, how about you? Another highlight.
Killian Sackhill, man, that head kick was just so brutal. I see them calling for it in the chat room as well. It was a very scary moment, you know, seeing your opponent on the ground like that, face down and twitching like that. That was very, very scary. But holy crap, did that card need something like that?
Yeah, because it was 6 out of 7 decisions, if I'm not mistaken, prior to that. Danny, your thought? Another highlight from 321.
I got to shout out Walter Walker. First of all, 4 heel hooks in a row at heavyweight. That guy's awesome. He knows how to promote a fight. He was hilarious in the build-up, shaved the mustache and left the beard and used the whole Dagestani music thing on Instagram. The dude's hilarious. And then the post-fight interview, I thought it was quite funny as well, calling Chris Burnett, poor Chris Burnett, chocolate Peppa Pig, which sounds a little weird too. I was talking with GG about that pre-show, but yeah, I think this is a guy that's hilarious, that's skilled, and the heavyweight division needs people like him. The only thing that was wrong about this whole thing was the call out. Man, I think he should go for somebody in the rankings at this point, not against the Egyptian Hammer.
I agree. 15-1 at this point.
You got to get a big fight, man.
Yeah, start to move up like the Jeffersons. Great job, guys, unpacking a very complicated card out in Abu Dhabi. I'm sure more will come out of the whole thing with Aspinall in the coming weeks. That's why we always tell you, keep it locked on MMA Junkie. Let's talk about some of the latest news in MMA. We'll go through this quick. Nolan, your thoughts on Conor McGregor revealing that he had a spiritual journey. Do you think this will change his ways, and does this make you more hopeful on an eventual return?
Nah, I mean, at this point, kind of who cares? Yeah, I don't really care at this point. If he's in the cage fighting, I'll be interested, to see how it plays out. But outside of that, there's been a lot of talk, not a lot of action. I feel like we've seen the song and dance before, and yeah, just not necessarily interested at this point in time.
If anybody's watching and only speaks Spanish and is wondering what Nolan said, he basically said, "Me vale madre."
Hey.
Yeah. How about you, Danny? Could you care less about the spiritual journey?
No, I would say I care, but for his own well-being, because obviously he's been living a lifestyle that that's not good for him and the people around him and the people involved. So I hope it's true. And I know that nowadays religion doesn't really hold the importance that it did years ago. And I saw some people mocking it online, but whether you believe it or not, it is 100% true that for some people, religion can be a very positive thing. So I hope that's the case. I'm all for personal improvement. And if that means that Conor McGregor is going to be a law-abiding citizen and not commit felonies and crimes and all this, then go for it. I'm all for it. But yeah, I'm not holding my breath that there's going to be all of a sudden a return to competition and, yeah.
All right, Goes, you have any thoughts or should I move on?
Just same thing, man. I mean, this is kind of like Hollywood 101, right? We see actors do this all the time.
We wish him the best. Obviously, he has his demons. I don't make light of him. If this is what changes it, great. He's a husband, father of 4, a legend in the game. But man, the actions are going to have to speak louder than words. Here goes back to you, Larissa Pachenko. No longer with the PFL. You want to see her back down to 135? She's got a lot of skins on her wall, but at 35 in the UFC, no bueno. 0-2.
Yeah, I think she's kind of earned that. I enjoy watching her fight, and I don't see why you wouldn't sign someone like that. It's kind of odd, though, right, that the PFL would just let her go like that. I think she's a talented fighter.
Nolan, what does this mean for the PFL? They've lost a lot of stars. It's almost like whatever they acquired from Bellator, they've lost in equal, and it's done with bad press or a bad look, however you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, any thoughts on that promotion?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, right? When you're losing fighters that I think people all of a sudden, as soon as they leave your promotion, people are, hoping that they join the UFC. That means you had a hot commodity and you just let it walk. So for me, I think in this specific case with Larissa, I do wonder, looking at that division, right? You got Chris Cyborg as the champion. She's kind of indicated she doesn't have many fights left. Like, will that division essentially fizzle out? I think that's something that you have to consider as well. Will PFL maybe swing and get men's flyweight or something instead? I think that's something to really watch going forward.
Mm-hmm. Guys, you have any other highlights in the news cycle from this past week? Back to Nolan.
I do. I don't remember what it was now.
Why don't you come in and then we'll let Nolan throw a few more warm-up.
Oh, I do remember. Jalen Turner. He has unretired because MMA retirements do not exist. I think we have hit a point where the MMA retirements are even lasting for a less amount of time than they had previously, but good for him. I mean, it's a banger. The UFC is closing out the year strong with 2 pay-per-views that are pretty deep. They have a lot of exciting fights, and him and Barbosa on that December card is something that I'm looking forward to. And I do think it's a very important fight for both guys. Like, I think the loser of that bout could be looking at, potentially having reached the end of their UFC road. I'm not 100% sure with Barbosa. Maybe, he's obviously been around forever. Maybe they'd give him a longer leash. But for Turner, somebody that already retired, is coming off some losses, like, you got to think if he loses here that he might be actually done for good, whether it's his choice or the UFC's.
Glows, you have another highlight?
Yeah, Henry Cejudo is saying it looks like he's going to call it quits again. But I like his reasons, and I like that he knows that it's the right time. And this particular matchup is interesting to kind of see. Hopefully it's one where he can go out looking good rather than how some of the other guys go out.
And hopefully not on an eye poke. Didn't he have a bad one recently too?
Yeah.
Danny Segura. I mean, El Chingon. Ahora tú.
I'm going to highlight here that Jair Rodriguez revealed that he went hand surgery and will be out for a while. This is one of the most mysterious fighters in UFC history. He disappears for a year and a half, comes back, gives us the fight of the year or knockout of the year, then disappears again. But we're getting a bit of a change here. He's finally letting us know kind of what's going on. I had heard rumors that he was injured, but he finally publicly said it. So wish him all the best, speedy recovery, and hopefully we get him in the cage sooner rather than later, because that guy's just dynamite.
Yeah, now's the time. But what does that say? If he was willing to fight in September, he would have went in the compromise. And you know how we feel about 30%, 40%, 50%. And oh man, I think he made the right decision. He's still young enough to bounce back. And that division is just full of different killers. A lot of people thought Lerone Murphy might have taken the lead in the Volk sweepstakes. Who knows? Guys, let's turn the page. We got some face punching ahead of us this weekend here back in Las Vegas at the Apex. It's a fight night featuring Steve Garcia and David Onama at the top of the bill. Goes, before you talk about this fight, update me. Where do featherweights rank as far as your favorite divisions as of late?
They've dropped just a little bit, but it's only because some of the other divisions have really stepped it up. Bantamweight has just been completely insane, but middleweight has been a lot of fun for me as well. So they've dropped a little bit.
All right. So tell me about this matchup. Big moment for both guys. Steve Garcia had that extra, not pressure, but he was on that run where he had 5 KOs in a row. He won his last fight, but it was a decision. Maybe even good for him to get that type of experience. And now he has to go 5 rounds against David Onama, also on a roll.
I think the UFC kind of recognized that, you know, if you have that last name, you're a chingon, you're a badass, right? And so really, when you look at it, these guys are outside of that bubble trying to pop into it. I think they're right on the outside, and the way Steve Garcia fights, if he gets another one of those finishes, I think he will be one of those guys that we start talking about now being next level.
All right, Danny, what's your excitement level for this card? It's a fight night, some decent names on there. Your boy Waldo's on it as well.
Yeah, by the way, my second last name is Garcia.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Daniel Segura Garcia.
Okay.
What's your full name?
Daniel Segura Garcia Yanes Martin Guzman.
Damn. All right.
Wow. Okay.
How big's your license? Like this big?
No. Only Segura Garcia is the 2 last names. But technically, you know, keeps going. Excitement level. Look, there's some gems here. There's some fights that I'm excited for, but all in all, this card's not good. Let's keep it 100.
A 5.7 out of 10.
Ooh,
6.25.
5.4.
Okay.
5.4.
Joseph Boza also bringing up another nice fight. Your excitement level, Norma Dumont against Ketlin Vieira, possible #1 contender fight in the eyes of Joseph Boza, a frequenter in our chat. What are your thoughts, man?
I think given a 5.7 or whatever Danny gave is a little generous. I might be like around a 4. Maybe we'll go 4.1. I think that this card, there's some action potential. I like the main event a lot. I know there's some people complaining about it. I get it. There's name recognition's not there, but in terms of an actual entertaining, you know, bout, it's a pretty fun one. So I do like that main event. And there's some other fights. The heavyweight fight's important. You know, the Dumont Vieira fight's important. So we'll give it a 4. Apex vibes coming into this one.
Guys, careful now. Careful. One Championship hasn't been doing much MMA lately. PFL keeps dropping the ball. This is the only party in town in terms of MMA as of late. And you guys are feeling 4s and 5s, huh? I mean, we always come in on Monday going, did you see that spinning back elbow? Did you see this? Did you see that? You guys' expectations are a little low, I think, no?
On paper, it's not the greatest, but I'll tell you what, when you look at the matchups, I think they're going to need a spatula to remove people off that mat. I mean, I think there's potential for good fights, but when you don't see numbers next to names, that tells you a lot, right?
Danny, what kind of stakes do we have in the heavyweight division between Waldo, Cortez Acosta, and Ante Delia coming over from PFL? Had a successful debut. Same camp as Aspinall, by the way.
Yeah. You know, after watching Volkov and Almeida, I think this fight got a lot more valuable and more interesting because we've seen the UFC time and time again pass over rightful contenders because they're boring, because they're not exciting. So look, if Ante Delija or Waldo go out there and get a crazy finish or have a crazy fight, or just even a better fight than we saw in Jailton Almeida versus Volkov, which is not hard to do, I think they're in the conversation. So I think it's a big fight. I'm curious to see if Ante wins. What happens then at heavyweight, because he's a former PFL champ, delivers knockouts. I'm sure the UFC is going to want to push him, given how thin that division is. And if Aspinall's still the guy at the top and they're teammates and they already said they don't want to fight each other, that could get a little weird. So yeah, big stakes at heavyweight here in the co-main event.
All right. How about another highlight from this card? Is there something that excites you guys on this fight night with Garcia and Onama?
We talked to Isaac Dulgarian last week, and he's one of those guys that I think you got to look out for. He's just got to be consistent, but I think he'll put on a decent performance.
Nolan?
I like Themba Garimbo and Jeremiah Wells. I think that's kind of a good supporting act. Good, two guys with knockout power.
Okay. How about you, Danny?
I'm gonna counter Ghost's pick, and I'm gonna highlight the other side of that fight. Javier Del Valle, dude, this guy's undefeated. He can submit. He hits like a truck. He is, I believe, from the last I saw, a plus 190 underdog, and I'm telling y'all, he's gonna win.
I disagree.
Oh,
sounds like
do we sense
I'll
a
take off my
mustache?
mask and let the world know who's behind this mask.
Shave a mustache, grow a mustache bet between these guys? Ooh, they stayed quiet. Goes?
Staring.
Oh, I thought you were talking to Nolan.
No.
I will
Danny.
never grow a mustache again. That was horrible. I don't want to do that, but maybe
November's coming up.
Yeah.
Hair versus hair match.
That's true.
Oh, God.
All right. Well, listen, we are actually a little bit early, so I'll give you guys a second here. If you have a quick question, run it through the chat. Joseph Boza saying Waldo Cortez Acosta lost to Sergey Pavlovich last time we saw. Fresh melon juice, oatmeal 2-6, Masters of the Universe. Danny looks like he's about to be shot out of a cannon. I like it. Hey, Danny and Goes, what out of 1 to 10, what would you give Nolan for his costume today? Speaking of 4.2s or whatever.
Oh, I'm a wrinkly jack-o'-lantern.
I'll give his name a 7.5, and then the outfit probably a 3.2.
I'll take it.
How about effort?
That's lower than my excitement for the Apex.
Matt,
I will go the name. I'll go a solid 9.6. I giggled. That was quite clever. The costume itself, I'll say a 4.1. 4.1.
All right. A little more exciting than the Apex.
I would love for UPS or Amazon to knock on Danny's door, because his costume's good enough where when we're watching, we know what he's doing. But at home, you're just kind of like, what's this guy up to?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a luchador mask from your travels in Mexico?
Yeah, this is I actually got outside Arena Ciudad de Mexico in Mexico City before a lucha match.
So your former career or your side hustles not being a gimp in someone's basement or nothing like that?
No.
Hopefully not a simp either.
No.
Okay. All right. Hopefully a pimp daddy. All right. Hey, listen, subscribe to the channel. We're getting close to 425,000 subscribers. We do this show every week, every Monday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And like the video on the way out. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everyone that voted for MMA Junkie and Mike Bond this year for the World MMA Awards. We'll see how that goes for us. Nolan King, also a former nominee for Best Journalist. We are stacked here with a lot of talent, and that's why you should subscribe to the channel. It's free. We'll do the rest of the work. So big shout out to everyone on the staff and all of you that tune in and all of you that support. We're out of here. Go out and be a champion. We'll talk to you soon.